702. Stephen is on The Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
Well, confirmation this week from the Citrus Growers Association. South Africa increased the volume of citrus products it exports in the last financial year by 22%. In other words, we exported more than, or nearly a quarter more this year than we did last year. It's an astonishing number. Dr Boitshoko Ntshabele is the CEO of the Citrus Growers Association. Boitshoko, good evening. I really do appreciate the time. Thank you. I know we produce some of the world's sweetest oranges and I suppose some of the world's most bitter lemons. What really drove this strong growth?
So thank you very much, Stephen, for having us. I know it's late on Friday, and I know you seem to have a challenge with grapefruit, but I think that's a discussion for another day.
Indeed.
Yes. So a couple of things came into play. One, we have improved production practices at farm level, which ultimately gave us good quality fruit for this year. We also had better coordination in terms of logistics ecosystem. Thanks to the guys at Transnet, the investment in new equipment and the staff incentives that they put in place have actually improved productivity so that the increased volume flowed a whole lot better in their ports. We also had young trees and new orchards that came into production and an incredible demand for lemons and oranges that went into juicing in Europe. And lastly, the Northern Hemisphere's own season ended a little bit too early, and we went into our season started with open markets. So just a confluence of a couple of good things that lead to a fantastic season for us.
Some of those factors are once-off, so whatever happened to the weather in the Northern Hemisphere is probably a once-off. Tariffs changes the picture. Some of those are repeatable. I mean, as you say, the practices, the farming practices that we followed, the improvements at Transnet. Is it possible to make any kind of prediction of what will happen in the next year? I mean, to grow by nearly a quarter seems unlikely to do that twice.
I doubt if we'll be able to grow by a quarter, but I think we will still experience some growth, and I think this is ahead of our own model. Our own model is premised on what we call Vision 260, and in essence, what we are saying is that we want to be able to export 260 million cartons by 2032, and what this shows is that we were able to handle this increase and we can gradually grow in terms of the entire ecosystem towards our target to export 260 million cartons by 2032.
So the agricultural practices that changed, what changed? I mean, the Transnet story is sort of obvious, but we've been growing citrus products for a very long time, and yet the changes that we made from a point of farming practices must have been significant.
Yes. So one of the biggest factors that came in is I'm not sure if you've ever visited some of the valleys where we grow citrus. You find that there's incredible growth in the amount of citrus orchards that are under nets, and with nets you have efficiencies in terms of protection of fruit against adverse weather. You also gain from pest control. You also gain from reduced transpiration. So altogether, you have better quality fruit coming out. So you end up with a lot of class 1 fruit that comes out, and that's typically the best quality fruit that we need to produce as the second biggest exporter of citrus in the world.
U.S. tariffs, obviously an issue. Boitshoko, I don't need to remind you of that. How worried are you that they are going to have an impact in the next year?
So look, we still have some time before the season starts. So we're really crossing fingers that our government and the U.S. government, have some sort of do-nothing and are able to come closer to a deal before the 2026 season starts. We're very concerned that if that doesn't come into play, it definitely kicks us out of the U.S. market, in that a lot of our competitors are sitting at 10% tariffs, and we become uncompetitive in that market.
Your industry, as we can see, has been growing quite strongly. You've explained why. Do you have any idea? I mean, obviously you're quite ambitious. If the US does not take our product, I mean, are we then really going to depend on China, which I know is becoming a bigger market?
Not really. I think with the level of growth that we are showing, we almost need all the markets that we can. So this year, with the volume that we have, almost all markets took additional amount of fruit in proportion to previous years. So the US itself took in 4 or 5%, which is the usual contribution to the uptake from their side, and the EU still gave us about 36%. So we want to say that all markets are very important for us. You would realize that you don't necessarily realize the same value in terms of the return. So ultimately you have that as a basket, and ultimately you are able to balance the scales, so to speak, for the growers on the farm. And we think that we still need to push government very hard to be able to earn dollars for fruit that goes to the US. Similarly, euro for the guys that export to the EU.
Is there anything more government needs to be doing to help your industry? Obviously, fixing potholes on roads so your fruit doesn't get bruised, I imagine, is quite a big thing. Making sure that Transnet's systems are running more effectively. Anything else?
Look, I think we want to improve conditions in some of the markets. You mentioned China, for instance, where we have a little bit of a stricter cold treatment measure. We were able to negotiate an improved cold treatment conditions, and that has been 4 or 5 months now. If government can expeditiously assist in ensuring that protocol is signed on both sides, that improves the conditions under which we ship fruit to China. And China is almost like an anchor in that side of the world, and we run the risk of improving conditions for the neighboring countries as well.
Dr. Boitshoko Ntshabele, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. And of course, the CEO there of the Citrus Growers Association, 20 minutes after 6.
The Money Show on 702.
Monday to Friday, 6 to 8 p.m.
An announcement yesterday from the Competition Commission. Google, Microsoft, Meta, YouTube and TikTok have agreed to change their practices with regard to the way they use news in South Africa on their platforms, and also to provide support to the news media. The findings by the Commission is that these companies make money from organizations that produce news, and as you'll know, they don't pay for the production of that news. One of the inquiry's technical leads and senior analyst for the Competition Commission on this is Donnavan Linley. Donnavan, good evening. You make the finding that media organizations do lose out because of the way these groups behave. They have to give some money back to media organizations. Are you expecting them to change the way they're actually behaving?
I think there's two dynamics that one has to consider when you're looking at these markets. I think there is a fundamental change in how users engage and engage in the news. A lot of it is, most of it these days is digital, or through digital means, through the platforms. And so these platforms play a very big part in referral traffic. So part of it is conduct, and what we are mandated to look at the competition dynamics and what conduct these firms undertake. And what we do find is, especially like, for example, Google, you find more consumption on the Google search of content, including news content, and what you call an increase in zero clicks. In other words, people not clicking through to websites where websites can monetize. So that aspect is the sort of conduct that these firms undertake. But one also has to understand that in the digital landscape, ad revenues are diverted a lot to also other forms of digital advertising, such as Instagram stories, YouTube videos, and influencers, for example. And influencers were never a thing before in the past. So you've got these two dynamics that are taking place already.
Do you believe that what you've recommended, and you can only go so far, you can only look, as you remind us, at one aspect of it, at the competition aspect. Do you think it's going to make a difference? I mean, from what you've learned during the inquiry, I mean, it can feel sometimes that media isn't going to survive.
Look, I mean, that is true. And I mean, the reason why we did an inquiry was that news media did approach us and they are under distress. And if you look at the data, I mean, news media is under distress. And this has big, deep ramifications for democracy as well, because news media is important, for example, investigative journalism and learning about what's actually happening in society and being informed citizens. But yeah, I think this is something, we do have limitations in what we can and can't do, and we have to link our remedies to our findings, and it has to come from a competition perspective. So there's a degree of proportionality in our assessments. So what this means is that our recommendation certainly is gives some space to breathe for news media. It's a step in the right direction, but I don't think it is something that's going to solve all the problems that news media is facing. No, sure.
I don't think anyone could expect you to do that. What was it like dealing with the companies in this? I mean, the big tech companies have, I imagine, lots of organizations in different places around the world asking them for certain things. I'm going to talk about X in a moment, but the others, did they seem to you to understand where you were coming from? I mean, they have agreed to this. They didn't challenge your findings.
Yeah, I mean, this is a global issue, and I think there's been other studies also overseas. I mean, in Australia, they've done, also the competition agency has done a similar study, inquiry, and come to their own remedial actions. And I think in terms of value transfer, for example, it's also been done in Canada, in California, and the UK and France have also done similar work. So these companies are familiar with it. I think they're aware of the issues. In terms of our engagement with the global firms, I think it's been a mixed bag. In our experience, for example, Google has been very engaging and has worked with us quite well. And then, yeah, I mean, with the other platforms, there has eventually been some meeting of the minds, and we've come to some understanding on sort of remedial actions. I think one platform we haven't really got to agreement with is X.
Yeah, I mean, we all understand its owner's difficult history with the country that gave birth to him. Did they just refuse to talk to you?
No, they have been engaging us, but I think it's just both a disagreement on both the remedies and the findings. So but they have been engaging us.
Donnavan Linley, thanks very much indeed. One of the inquiry's technical leads and senior analyst, part of that Competition Commission inquiry into media and big tech companies. 26 minutes after 6.
The Money Show.
The Markets.
Grant Nader is Portfolio Manager at Benguela Global Fund Managers. Grant, good evening. Look, a ratings upgrade. I'm going to hit refresh again to see if it'll actually happen or not, or if we'll even get a view tonight. But there's a bit of optimism in the market, I notice.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen. There certainly is some optimism. I think the base case is a pause and it'll happen next year, but it's not. It feels like it's 60-40 at the moment, so it would be nice to see. What I can say is that the market has already been pricing in that it will happen, if not now, then next year. And you've seen that in the bond yields. You've seen it in the way the banks have been behaving. Our 10-year funding rate is the lowest it's been in a number of years. And so, I think optimism is there. And, it's positive. It really is a positive sign. It's another little incremental forward momentum moment in South Africa over the last couple of years.
The thing is that if this were to happen now or next year, it really does give an incentive for government to continue in the direction that it's going in. And that can be quite important. It allows the coalition government to say, look, this is the progress that we're making. Let's keep going. It does the same for the National Treasury. They can say, look, we're right to keep going in this direction. Let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. I think they need some vote of confidence. I mean, the government's been under a lot of pressure, as we know, internationally with some of the PR around the US and that. And this kind of vote of confidence, I think, is fantastic. It's going to improve our cost of funding. It's going to improve the ability of the government and our banks to raise capital at cheaper prices. Our debt servicing costs are coming down. It'll give them room to spend more on the right things, hopefully. So, it will be a vote of confidence. And exactly as you say, it'll be like, let's see some more of that. So very positive from that point of view.
A strong update today from Richmond. Investors like that. And jewelry in huge demand.
Richmond in the last few years has really proven itself it's moving up the value chain in terms of some of the highest quality luxury brands in the world. The Van Cleef & Arpels and the Cartier brands are in high demand. They're now the vast majority of the business profits, and they're incredibly good businesses. And their sales were far more robust post-COVID. That drop-off after COVID highs that everyone had, a lot of luxury retailers saw a big drop. Richmond was much more robust. We're seeing now they're picking up again. Even with gold prices where they are, they manage their margins well, cost discipline, sales growth looking good. I mean, this company for me is just moving from strength to strength. I really like what they're doing, and I think you can be comfortable with this in your portfolio for sure.
US stocks opening negative tonight. Now, one reason, of course, is whether or not there'll be an interest rate cut in the US, and it seems that those bets are going off and people are believing that won't happen. But the other big factor is still AI valuations. You look at the NASDAQ, for example, and it's really been consistently down this week. Clearly, there are still huge concerns about valuations.
There are, without doubt, a lot of concerns, and there's a lot of very smart people saying, opening their mouth and sharing their thoughts around these concerns. You've got Michael Burry, you've got any number of guys, and Howard Marks, and so people are almost waiting for this bubble to pop. And to be honest, there are signs of a bubble in some of this capital, this re-lending, circular lending that's going on, one lending to the other to buy from the original one. So there are reasons for concern in some companies, but the debt is starting to grow. But a lot of these guys are funding this out of cash flow. And to be honest, I also think the market is still reflexive around buying the dips. And we've even seen, we've had this little pullback, I think for now, unless there's a real rollover in debt, you'll see people buy the dips reflexively, whether it's right or wrong. So I think the common consensus of a bubble is why we probably won't sell off right now dramatically. But, we'll see. I could be wrong.
That's what everybody says at the moment. Grant Nader, thanks very much indeed. Portfolio Manager, Benguela Global Fund Managers. Don't forget, we'll talk sneakers, the Friday Biz Blitz in a few moments as well. Just gone 6:30.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes.
23 minutes now to 7 the time. Don't forget the Friday Biz Blitz in a few moments. 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. I saw today the latest developments, and it's something that I try to follow where I can, in Parliament's investigation, the investigation by the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA, into the Road Accident Fund, because the money that seems to have, in some cases, disappeared, but the cases of bullying are just unbelievable. And I've told you before about a senior official who came to testify and just started crying as he remembered what had happened and how Collins Letswalo was sort of at the back of it. Well, from what I understand, Songezo Zibi, who's the chair of that committee, saying today that they had issued subpoenas to Collins Letswalo, he was the former CEO, to come and testify. And you will have noticed, and I certainly noticed, that there was a time when he would go and do interview after interview, wasn't scared of anything, it seemed, and would basically say he had done nothing wrong, the claims against him were all rubbish, etc., etc., etc. Well, now he seems to have gone to ground, and the official address where they sent the sheriff to apparently had mold. Hadn't been used for so long, was abandoned. They're trying to track him down through other means. He's not responding to calls, he's not responding to emails. And the one thing I've sort of learnt in life, if I can be so grand, is that when someone ducks and dives the sheriff, then you know that they have something to hide. Otherwise, Collins Letswalo, don't be a coward. All it is answering questions from MPs. Sir, I have never known you to be short on confidence in the past. I've never seen that. So go and answer the questions. They're not dragging you there with guns. It's just answering questions. Yes, it'll be live on TV. I mean, we'll all watch it later because we're watching the commissions. But go and testify, for goodness sake. Don't run away from the sheriff. You know that they're looking for you. And don't hide behind the legalities either. Don't say, oh, they came to the wrong address. You know they want you. I'm sure you have some Zipi's number. Phone him and say, look, I'm ready to go. When's good for you? I can do Monday. Do it like that. But don't run away. Come on, surely. Your thoughts. 011-883-0702 021-446-0567.
The Money Show.
The Friday File.
The Friday File.
Just gone 7:15. Well, you'll know one of the big changes, one of the big shifts we've seen in the last 30 years in popular culture is the rise of sneakers. And along with that, along with the fashion of sneakers, the self-expression that comes through them, the culture that you include yourself in, depending on what you wear, the fact that some of them are extraordinarily valuable, comes the idea that you've got to look after them and someone has to design them. None of that is easy. Joe Farah is the founder and CEO of Sneaker Lab and Good Basics. Joe, good evening. So good to talk to you about this. Thank you.
Good evening, Stephen. Thanks for having me on the show.
It must have been an amazing thing to be a part of the evolution of sneaker culture over the years. It's become a sort of staple of popular culture, and it's really grown dramatically.
It has grown dramatically. In fact, in the last couple of years, there's been quite a big shift towards more functional sneakers as opposed to the hype culture that was around when originally launching Sneaker Lab. So things have changed quite dramatically in that sneakers are now leaning towards more functional shoes as opposed to just fashion items, but still a fashion statement for most of us.
When you say functional, do you mean actually, doing walks in them, playing some sort of sport in them? Or is it more about just wearing them through the day in an office?
So I think in the past, when originally starting Sneaker Lab, there was a lot of hype culture and that there were a lot of regular drops that were coming out from the big brands such as Nike, Adidas, etc. And over the last couple of years, there's been a move towards a more functional style shoe. The space is kind of called normcore, where you're starting to see the likes of sneakers that incorporate a running or a training element, even though they're lifestyle. Normcore is a term that's kind of born out of the era of Seinfeld, where things are a little bit more sort of dad looking, for lack of better words. So there's been a move to that space. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I was looking, I was doing some background research on you, and I kept coming across this phrase, probiotic technology. Now, Joe, when I go into a pharmacist and I see the word probiotic, it's usually in something you take when you take antibiotics. It's often something, to keep your sort of tummy working properly. How are you using probiotic technology with sneakers?
So originally when founding the business, one of the big things for me was that it has to be the cleaning element of it had to be sustainable and had to have very high efficacy. And at the time, I did a lot of research into the green cleaners at the day that were available at the time. And a lot of them had very low efficacy. And so through a lot of research, I stumbled across probiotic cleaning. Now, at the time, which was 13 years ago, we couldn't really talk about the idea that using bacteria to clean was actually something that we could present to the consumer. But things have evolved over time. And as people have become more aware of their gut microbiome and how important bacteria is in your life, and that the idea of taking antibiotics and wiping out all bacteria is not necessarily the best approach, we've arrived at a place now in time where I think that people are ready to hear about probiotics. I mean, if you look even a few years back, the idea of drinking kombucha and taking functional mushrooms and CBD was really not something that was on the radar, whereas now it's pretty mainstream and rather accepted. So this whole idea around the biotech and probiotic cleaning is quite new and revolutionary. And I believe is the future of how we're going to be cleaning not only our sneakers, our clothes, but also our homes, which is where Good Basics ties into the equation.
How does it actually work? Are we looking at bacteria that eat the dirt?
So fully bacteria, and what I find fascinating about it is that it's an intelligent way of cleaning, and that the bacteria really looks for a food source to digest, and it creates enzymes to actually digest the food source. So what you end up happening is you've got this dormant bacteria sitting in a liquid, and when exposed to air or food source, the bacteria comes to life. It essentially looks for the food source, starts to create enzymes to digest that food source. And the major benefit of this is that you get prolonged cleaning. You can actually get prolonged cleaning over a period of up to 10 days, although our claims on our packaging is that we clean for up to 72 hours. So with traditional chemical cleaners and normal green cleaners, you get chemical cleaners obviously being very harsh and taking the wipe out everything approach, whereas green cleaners just sort of work for the moment. And I think there's a little bit of a hangover around green cleaning, and that you tend to move back to your chemical cleaners if you don't get the efficacy that you were expecting out of it. Whereas probiotic cleaning has both, and the benefit of high efficacy and prolonged cleaning, which neither of the other two offer. So I really think that's the big benefit. And it really, another major benefit is that it really deals with things like odor at the source, which is a very unique advantage of probiotic cleaning.
So I was going to ask about the time and specifics, because I mean, whenever I take sneakers to be cleaned, it's always a day or two. I'm afraid to confess I haven't actually spent much time thinking about what they're using to clean it. So the time,
yes.
I mean, for customers, time probably does matter. I mean, we all like to think, well, we're going to wear them on Friday, so we take them in on Monday, but that's not really how things work.
No, so from a time perspective, there are a lot of other cleaning agents in the product that we ensure are environmentally friendly. You get very high efficacy instantly, but what you do get on top of that is the prolonged cleaning effect. So probably one of the easiest ways to describe it to you is that if you, for example, had a wine stain on your sneakers or your clothes or even your upholstery for that matter, and you use the probiotic cleaner, even if it was an old wine stain, you would clean it as best as you could, and you would see a noticeable difference immediately. But if you had to watch that stain over a number of days, it would completely disappear, because the bacteria will then start to produce enzymes that would then biodegrade the food source till it's completely gone. And the bacteria remains in action until effectively there is no food source left. And one of the new spaces that's quite revolutionary that is only being explored now that we're looking into, etc., is hospitals, because it's the last place you would ever think to use bacteria to clean. And the results so far have been absolutely phenomenal, because they prevent the growth of superbugs. But I think that's going to be a long road.
No, sure. And I hate to ask bluntly, business. Do you find that people
No, go ahead.
People clean, have their sneakers cleaned more often during boom times, or is it fairly consistent? I mean, I would imagine that people with big collections, or even people who have just one or two pairs, want to use them often. They want them to look new all the time. So there might be quite a consistency to your business.
So I must confess that we've actually recently gone through a brand evolution where we are no longer just sneaker focused. We've actually become the lab, and this was a gradual progression where we're actually taking care of everything from head to toe. So we're very fashion focused. So that's our key focus is fashion care. And to answer your question, I think that with regards to cleaning your sneakers and the collections that people have. I mean, I think that some people have one or two pairs where others have huge collections. Myself, I've tried to cut down. I'm not sure. Did I answer that correctly, or did I waffle on there?
No. I got what I was looking for. I mean, I think I do understand it. Joe, it's been amazing to talk to you. Thank you so much. It's really interesting business, and I had no idea about the probiotic side of it. Joe Fares, the founder and CEO of Sneaker Lab and Good Basics, and now you know probiotics helping to keep sneakers clean and odor free.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes. Live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
Time for the Friday Biz Blitz on The Money Show. You know how it works. You call us on 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. We put out a question. If you get it right, we move on to the next question. If you get it wrong, we move on to the next caller. Okay, first question on the Friday Biz Blitz tonight. The Springboks are playing tomorrow. Which former Springbok rugby player and now CEO of the country's largest private security company is planning to list the firm on the JSE? Which former Springbok rugby player and now CEO of South Africa's largest private security company is going to list the firm on the JSE? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567.
The Money Show, Friday Biz Blitz.
Okay, first question for you on the Friday Biz Blitz tonight. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. Which former Springbok rugby player is now CEO of South Africa's largest private security company and is planning to list the firm on the JSE? Who is the person who's both played rugby for the country and is the CEO of a private security company? It's a name, if you've got a long memory, you will remember and perhaps kick yourself a little bit once the name actually comes through. That's the first question. Our second question is around the inflation target. We will also have a question for you around the Competition Commission and the currency as well. And of course, we're still waiting to see what's going to happen with that ratings decision by S&P Global. But our first question, of course, is which former Springbok rugby player is now the CEO of South Africa's largest private security company and wants to list the firm on the JSE? That's the first question tonight on the Friday Biz Blitz. Let's go to Spamandla on the line from Northgate. Spamandla, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Go for it.
Is it not Brian Habani?
Brian Habana. No, Spamandla, it's not. Do you want another guess?
Faf de Klerk?
I'm sorry, Spamandla, they're still playing. So, well, they're a bit, Brian Habana's obviously not playing, but Faf de Klerk is. So they're a little young to now be CEO of the largest security company in the country. Spamandla, thank you. Mandla in Rosebank. I should have known we would talk this week, Mandla. What's the answer?
Is it Bartman?
It is Bartman, Val Bartman. Did you have to look it up?
No, no, I heard it on the radio.
Well, of course you heard it on the radio, Mandla. Okay. South Africa's changed its inflation target for the first time since the year 2000. What is the new target?
3%.
It is 3%. Of course it's 3%. Okay. Following a landmark inquiry by the Competition Commission into unfair value sharing between global tech platforms and local publishers, which company, along with YouTube, agreed to pay 688 million rand to support South African media through content licensing, innovation grants, and capacity building initiatives? And Mandla, it's a very big company.
I wonder, is that...
I don't know if Mandla's ever thought this long.
Google?
Of course it's Google, Mandla.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, yes. And the rand hit its strongest level in almost 3 years after the medium-term budget policy statement. What key milestone did it achieve against the US dollar? What did it get to for the first time in quite a while?
We're under 17 rand.
Mandla, congratulations, you're a winner. Yes, indeed. It was 17 rand to the dollar. That's where we leave the Friday Biz Blitz tonight. Mandla, congratulations. Again, it's 7 o'clock.